But football without fans is not. You play a football match without fans, is it not? It can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch, it becomes nothing.
And to Johnson. Johnson. And a corner Johnson. Larson. Oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! Nakamura! He has done it! Is it not just typical?
The game is over. The Rebels have won. Champions, that's who we are.
What's happening, folks? What is happening? Tuesday Tic Talk time. It's the 13th of June, and we've got Paddy, we've got James, we've got myself. Another boiling day in the Scottish summer, but we're still alive. And of course, the news is that we're on the verge. We're on the verge of hearing that Brendan Rodgers is going to be announced as the next Celtic manager. Yes.
No, do you know what, mate? I need to apologise to everybody because it's my fault we're late. I stupidly decided to come home from work and start scrubbing my slabs out my garden. And I realised I didn't have a big brush, so I ended up doing it with a wee wire brush, and I was like fucking Cinderella. And I didn't realise at the time, so apologies. But Gav, sorry, what's happened, mate? Rodgers wise.
Well, we're just waiting because the rumour is that we're on the verge of Rodgers being announced, and it's quite fitting because last week when we last spoke, that was when Postecoglou had announced that he was joining Tottenham Hotspur. So it appears that news happens on Tuesdays, which is quite fitting for us to do our Tuesday TikTok. Hope all the viewers are doing well, getting your comments coming in. And of course, the main topic is Brendan Rodgers. How do we feel about it? I really want to hear from the people who wrote him off, who said he's a horrible human being, he's a rat. Not that I take any pleasure in it, but I just want to know what your feelings are, because I asked you guys earlier on, will there start, let's say for instance, okay, it's very, very likely that he's going to be the new manager. So say that he is the manager. Do you think there'll be still a segment of the home support who will vocalise their discontentment at him being appointed as a manager? James, how are you doing, mate? What are you feeling about this impending news?
I am all good. I honestly don't know how to feel. I'm a wee bit torn. He's by no means, I mean, obviously, as we've said, it does look like it's going to be him. He wasn't top of my list, but he wasn't bottom either. I would have probably had Knutson and Potter ahead of him, and I would have had a fair few below him as well. But I honestly, I don't know how to feel. As I'm sure we'll come on to talk about it, but I see a lot of positives, but I can equally see some negatives as well. So I really, honestly, I don't know. I'm still kind of torn in the whole thing. Would I welcome him back? I don't know if I'd welcome him back. I'd take him back probably. But I'm torn. I'm torn in the whole thing.
I hear you. You're all out of faith. This is how you feel. Cold and I'm ashamed. That's
Natalie and brilliant. I was actually thinking that in my head, mate. I didn't want to seem like the old and the crowd and see what's happening, Natalie.
If there's an opportunity for a dad job, we go for it. Well, Paddy, best man for the job. Would you agree?
Well, for the outside looking
is it easier to say if he's not the best man for the job, then who is?
Well, this is the thing, mate. I don't know who's realistically or who is on the managerial candidates, who's available, who's interested. I really, really don't know. But if you're looking at the names that's been mentioned, obviously, Kennel Knutson, or however the fuck you pronounce it, his name's been mentioned. Is he interested? I don't know. I think there's talk about Ajax wanting him, but he's potentially going to knock it back because there's a whole thing maybe about him being basically rewarded by a percentage of sell-ons for players that he sells on, obviously. Then you've got Enzo Maresca. That's the talk as well because of the whole Man City link, City group, this and that. So I think if you looked at all the candidates, then if Rodgers is a potential yes, if it's a serious interest from both parties, then I suppose if you're taking off the hat of looking back at what happened the previous my stint as manager, probably aye. I know that was a long-winded fucking answer, but probably aye. I've been kind of sitting thinking about it. And
Okay, Charlie.
say who?
Okay, Charlie.
Charlie Valley.
Sitting there thinking about it.
Oh, Charlie Nicholas. Thanks. No, listen, I get the whole. I get people's ideas and thoughts about, you know, what went on the last time. People say the rat and this and that. I've probably done it myself. I'm sure I've done it myself. I think that was probably out of anger more than anything. And of course, the timing wasn't great. Mid-season, we were chasing titles, chasing trophies. And it was a bit of a letdown that he jumped ship to Leicester. But see when you see everything that's happened since, and you look at what's happened with Ange. Now, in my mind, Big Ange was going to be here. He was going to be here for a long time. There was talk kind of in the background about him building a dynasty and, you know, bringing through this whole new era at Celtic. And look what's happened. He's jumped ship. He's went to Spurs. He's standing there the day he's been unveiled with the Spurs tap, and I'm actually quite sickened when I look at the photo because I'm fucking gutted, absolutely gutted that Big Ange is away to Spurs. And I know I saw him speaking about being the Spurs manager, but see the day just seeing him holding that Spurs tap, mate, it kind of brought it home. Right, that's it. It's definitely done. He's gone. That was the last kind of great white hope that you had for like a manager staying for a long, long term, building that dynasty, building things up for the bottom, having a long-lasting legacy. That's gone now. So see now that that's happened and I've saw that, it's kind of make me think twice about Rodgers. Raging the last time. Still got a lot of kind of adverse feelings towards him leaving the last time. But now, I think the days are gone now. I've seen a manager being here for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it may be. I think we as supporters now need to get rid of that kind of emotional connection because they're just employees at the end of the day. They're going to do what's best for themselves. Celtic will be here long after they're gone. So that's what we need to focus on. If a manager comes in and does well, great. We'll hopefully get the best out of them. The same as a player. If a player's here for 2, 3 years, great. And if we move them on and get a big signing on fee for them, fantastic. If they bring success, yes, great. So I think now we need to be in the same kind of mindset with managers, unfortunately.
James, Paddy does make a few good points. In fact, there's a lot of points. I guess one of them is mending bridges. Now, there's the relationship that was kind of tarnished. That's probably an accurate word between the fans and Brendan Rodgers and the manner of his departure and the timing of his departure halfway through a season, apparently in the dead of the night. You know, I'm being theatrical. So there's that kind of angle. The other angle is the Celtic board and Brendan Rodgers and how things were left. Primarily, maybe the relationship between Peter Lawwell and Brendan Rodgers. So why don't we focus on the fans for the time being? Because I guess I did kind of bring that up in the introduction. How do you think? Do you think Brendan Rodgers is going to have to kind of do a very kind of cheesy PR job to kind of mend bridges, to kind of, I don't know, apologise, explain what's happened, or does he have to do that? Does his rejoining the club demand that he make some sort of apology? How do you think he'll kind of go over that kind of part?
Honestly, I don't know. It will be interesting watching, assuming he gets the job. Obviously, all the kind of nonsense, even away from football, the stuff about fucking Danny McGreen and breaking down in the Clyde Tunnel, all that stuff. So he either needs to come in and either lean right into it and just be as cheesy can be and basically have a laugh with it, or just never give an interview ever again in his full time at Celtic, because I think obviously we've seen the display at Tynecastle, left, never a sale, always a fraud. So there's going to be a would you even say a vocal minority? Because I dare say there will be a fair few. Once he comes in, you'll back him. You've got to back him, but it will be interesting to see how kind of the fan base as a whole takes to it. But on the topic of Rodgers, what you were saying about with the board and things like that, I mean, the guy's ego is massive, and for me, I don't think his ego would allow him to come back to Celtic if he wasn't getting. Just to get back, when he left, obviously we had the whole McGinn saga, and we were linked with players like Castagna and things like that didn't sign. If he's coming back, I don't think his ego will allow him to come back when there isn't a relatively big transfer kitty, and if Peter Lawwell is going to call the shots. Obviously, Mark Lawwell's here now, and Peter Lawwell's kind of moved to the kind of real business side of it in terms of being the chairman. So hopefully that points towards good things from the board side, in the sense that he's maybe happy to come back. It maybe means Lawwell's a wee bit further out the picture now. Hopefully he's sticking to the role that he's been given. But then the flip side of that, and I'm sure it's something we'll discuss, we were talking about just before we come on there, is I don't think I would trust Rodgers to spend 30-35 million given his track record, not even at Celtic, but over the course of his full career. He's made a handful of good signings, but no more than that. So then again, the flip side of that is he brought in Congerton with him the last time. Congerton's no with him anymore, so hopefully it's Mark Lawwell that will maybe be identifying the players. Rodgers will maybe say, I want a left back, a whatever, tall striker, target man, blah, 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 blah. And it'll be Mark Lawwell that will go and identify them, as opposed to Rodgers like the last time, because that was, or Congerton, sorry, because as we'll come on to discuss, a lot of his signings weren't they great last time round.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there, right? But again, just because I'm kind of trying to look at things almost positively, I'm kind of, if you look at what happened the last time, obviously when he came in, the first season was phenomenal, right? The impact that he had was absolutely tremendous. The style of football that was brought back onto display was excellent. The fans were back in after a period where we had a banner, in the top stand, depicting fans. So we got the fans in. We had 20,000 there to welcome them. The good times are back. It was right in the period of Hunskelpin. But then the second season, there was a decline, right? The trophies were there, the titles were there, still there, but in terms of style of play and stuff, there was a decline, and it moved into the third season. But if just exactly what you're talking about with signings, Jamesy boy, like he'd identified guys like the boy Parode that ended up at Southampton, the French left back, and he ended up with Emilio Ezagiri for a second spell. He looked at centre backs. We ended up with Marvin Comper. So I don't know if the board at that time didn't trust him to stay long term. So they didn't want to put in bigger and better players. 6 million, 8 million, 9 million pound players. Or if they were looking at Congerton and saying, well, do you know what? We've allowed you this guy to come in. This is the guy that you've identified that you want to come in and work with. And we don't like the kind of players that he's bringing up. So there was a bit of mistrust there. I don't know. And obviously, if there's mistrust there for the board to the manager, then there's going to be mistrust there for the manager to the board. Because if you're sitting managing a team, a winning team who you've produced, and you're not getting the backing, then of course, you're going to be thinking twice about your stay there. I can get that. I totally get it now. As I say, try to think objectively and positively. So exactly as he says, if Brendan Rodgers is going to come back as manager, we're looking at instant success here. We're looking at turnover, because it's going to take a strong character to come in. But again, the point that you made, if he's going to come in, he's going to be coming in because he's going to be getting backed straight away. There's no doubt. There's no way that he's going to come in and no be getting the backing. We're getting the Champions League. Apparently, Big Ange was getting the backing before he went to Spurs. So surely if a manager's saying, right, well, if you want me to come and be the manager and you were going to give it to him, well, guess what? You're going to give it to me as well if you really want me there.
Yeah.
See, just to be fair to Rodgers as well, as much as I'm fucking slandering his transfer dealings, the one thing you've got to give him credit with, and it's undeniable, he makes players better. See the players that, I mean, you look at what he done the last time, a lot of what he done was with essentially Ronnie Dyler's team. Guys like Armstrong, Boyata even looked like a player for a while under him. There was a fair few. So if it is to be Rodgers, then I think that could be massive, assuming he stays. See, for guys like Abada, I know you don't like Abada, Paddy, but I think next year if Rodgers is there, then he's potentially one that could really kick on to the next level. You could probably say the same for Jota. I dare say he's got another level left in him. So
Well,
it would be good.
Stuart Armstrong jumps to mind straight away. Look at
Mhm.
the difference that was made by the manager believing in him, and kind of converting him for that kind of wide midfielder that Ronnie Dyler had made him, and then he turned him into get that box to box player, something that we really missed since probably Petrov. You know what I mean? So I think we need that again. We need somebody in that position again. But no, I get that. That's a very good point that about Abada, because I still don't think he's kind of refined or defined his position. I don't know if he thinks he's a striker or a winger. He's kind of somewhere in between. So if he can come in and make that, sorry,
he's a shite bag. That's what he is. Abada.
he is that, mate. Yes, he is. But listen, if a manager comes in and says, "Listen, I believe in you. I want you to be this," do it. Just do it. And if he doesn't want to do it, if he's not going to be good enough to be a winger or a forward, say, "Well, do you know what? We're going to have to do better than that." But it's a great point, James. It is.
It is an interesting period because I'm trying to remember the last time where we got a Celtic manager to come in and we were in such a strong position, you know, financially and domestically as well. So I think a lot of people were kind of afraid of missing a beat, the transition from Postecoglou to a new manager, that transition which can carry an element of risk where the manager might take his time to find his feet, to kind of understand the league. And the fear is that we might kind of lose a step to our closest rivals. But I guess with Brendan Rodgers, which has kind of been said a lot, it is low risk that he's already been here. In fact, the only other Celtic managers managed this space, that'd be Billy McNeil, is that correct?
I think so,
Right. So I guess from that perspective, it is low risk, and we're kind of once bitten, twice shy. We're aware of some of the frailties that were exposed whenever Rodgers was the manager of his first time. Now, the first season was brilliant. The second season looked a little bit signs of stagnating. And by the third season, you know, it wasn't entertaining to watch the third season, and we were in need of that shake-up. I think Rodgers does have that. That's a bit of a trademark with Rodgers. The third season especially, things get stale. It happened at Liverpool. To be honest, I would give him a buy for Leicester. So for Leicester, they refused to back him anymore financially. And that's, in my opinion, one of the reasons that they got relegated. But I think in his first two seasons at Leicester, he did very, very well. 5th place finishes and an FA Cup into the bargain as well. You look at some English teams like Tottenham, for example, Newcastle even, you know, for the past 20 odd years, longer than that, Newcastle, I think they're going back to the 60s. They've just not won any trophies at all. Some of these teams would trade their right arm. You saw how much it meant to West Ham winning the Conference League there. These teams have been starved of success, but Rodgers was able to give it to Leicester, winning an FA Cup. That can't be sniffed at. What I'm driving at is the first 2 years can be very, very productive, but we need to be wary of Rodgers staying for a third season. We need to assess that our progress. Are things getting stale? Is Rodgers getting distracted by, I don't know, maybe he does really well in Scotland and then he starts to create headlines. He gets admirers for down south again. That will happen. It happens with players. If they do well, they'll get interest for down south. Happened with Postecoglou. I imagine the same thing will happen again with Brendan Rodgers. Hopefully, though, the manner of his departure will be different this time. It will be as Ange Postecoglou's done it at the end of a season, not halfway through a season, because that can really leave you high and dry. James, is there any kind of features of features of Rodgers' tenure the first time round, which you're afraid of repeating?
It would be that, like you said, the third season, it did go a bit stale. It wasn't a great watch, as much obviously as we were raging that he left when he did. The Fitbit did kind of take a nosedive in that third season, but I think a lot of that could be put towards the board as well. And obviously, if it's a strained relationship, and if he's not getting the players that he's wanting and things like that, it's obviously we've kind of discussed. I think that would play a part in it. I must admit, initially when I first heard that, I was pretty dead against it. But the more I kind of sit and I think about it, it could be, well, I think it will be good in the long run. As I say, the main thing, the kind of massive plus for me is that Congurton isn't with him. I think he actually moved to Italy, didn't he? Was at Atalanta or something? He got a kind of decent move somehow, but I think it's massive that he's no there. And then obviously we've seen the talk today about Scott Brown. No so sure if that will happen. Him coming in, he's easy for me to say. Him coming in as his assistant. But I'd be surprised if that happened. But I think that would be the board possibly acknowledging that all the fans wouldn't be on side, and that would be the kind of the Celtic man to kind of unite the support again, in a sense.
Well, there's a good point for Corvo in UFC. Assuming it's a Newcastle supporter, obviously because of the badge. Gav, you did mention Newcastle earlier on, so welcome to Corvo, and it's good to have fans for other teams on. He's asking, will Chris Davies return with Rodgers? I think I heard somewhere that Davies was primed for the Swansea job, is that right?
Aye.
Interesting. That sounds a bit like Eddie Howe and his partner in crime, Jason Tindall. Jason Tindall went back to manage Bournemouth and it ended terribly. And obviously, Brendan Rodgers was successful at Swansea. I'd imagine he was with Chris Davies at the time. You wonder if there'd be a similar pattern to that. But again, so say that happens if Chris Davies doesn't reunite with him again at Parkhead. Rodgers could potentially come into what would be, apart from the players, an empty dressing room. Like John Kennedy, Gavin Strachan, they look as if they're wanting to leave. You know, like in any other kind of work of life, if you want to leave to another employer, you can't be made to stay. I understand with players, for instance, the money's involved. That's why you might be able to persuade a player to honour his contract and stay for that further year, just like kind of Harry Kane or Ronaldo under Alex Ferguson. But for like staff members like Strachan and Kennedy, if they want to go, I don't think it'd be productive to hold them against their will. So I would imagine they would leave. So Brendan Rodgers is coming in with Davies. There's not going to be one familiar face to him there. I don't know how. And you're talking about bringing a Celtic man. Personally, I don't see it with Scott Brown. I think Scott Brown wants to be a manager. I don't think he sees his career trajectory going off the rails just because Postecoglou's left. I don't see that being a domino effect for his trajectory. It's always kind of. Well, we did it with John Collins, with Ronnie Dyler. Who do you think would be an interesting candidate for that, Paddy?
Oh, I don't know, mate. I think that would be
necessary.
Very much sorry?
Do you think it's necessary?
What?
To get a former Celtic player?
No. I get why it's good to have a connection there between ex-players or, you know, people who have got that connection with Celtic, who haven't away and done their thing and learned their trade to be coaches and whatnot. But I don't think we specifically need somebody who has got a connection with Celtic. I mean, look at Wim Jansen, had nothing to do with Celtic. Success. Big Ange, nothing to do with Celtic. Success. So it doesn't hinge on you having that history or that connection with Celtic. I think it would be an interesting point though, because the last time Rodgers was here, obviously Chris Davies was his assistant manager, and I think Davies did do a lot of the kind of tactical stuff. He did a lot of the stuff on the training ground. I don't want to say he was kind of the Michael Beale to his Gerrard, but there was comments about that saying that he was the brains at the time in terms of some certain parts of it. But I'm sure I'm sure if Rodgers has been primed up and he's had positive discussions with Dermot Desmond and Michael Nicholson reportedly, then that'll be something that's already been nailed down. Who wants to come in as his assistant, who's going to stay, who's going to leave. You never know. Kennedy might stay, but I suspect he'll go. With Gavin Strachan. So I think, again, if Rodgers does come in, he's going to have that autonomy there to pick his backroom team. Simple as.
See, in fairness as well, as much as I'm saying it, like getting a Celtic man in and things like that, getting the fans on side, it kind of ties in with what you're saying there as well, Paddy. Scott Brown always speaks very, very highly of Rodgers and vice versa. So there's every chance, maybe it's something that Rodgers has mentioned. It's no, well, obviously the John Collins one with Ronnie Dyer, that was kind of plucked out of thin air. That was just playing his nose in your face to see kind of what they were doing. But maybe that's something that Brendan Rodgers has floated the idea, assuming that Kennedy goes to Spurs and Chris Davis isn't there. Because Kolo Toure, I know he took the Wigan job as well, didn't he, for like 6 weeks, and it went kind of belly up quite quick. So I would assume that he would come back, and then you're assuming obviously Stratton will go away Kennedy down to Spurs. So obviously we will need bodies in as well. There was another guy. There was another guy in with Rodgers as well. The last time was it Driscoll? Was that right?
Glenn O'Driscoll. I think he took him in as the Liverpool coach at one point, didn't he? I think see if you look back at kind of Rodgers' first thing that he did as manager, reportedly, is he got Scott Brown down to his house, I think in England at the time, for dinner to have discussions with him, because I was talking about Brown leaving at the time, and Rodgers brought him down and kind of discussed what he wanted to do with Celtic, discussed how he wanted to use Brown, and then that kind of brought Brown into a new kind of stratosphere as a player. He brought him longevity to his career as a player. He upped his stats. He was one of the best. He had one of the best passing stats in the Champions League, that first season. But in terms of Scott Brown, mate, I don't see it happen. I really, really don't, because I was kind of privy to some information when Scott Brown was looking for a managerial gig, and he was offered a contract with Celtic, to be one of the head honchos in the youth kind of development side. And he says, "Look, I'm really looking for a manager's job." And one of the things that was told to me about Scott Brown's comment was, "I don't care where it is. I'm not interested in the money. I just want to get out there and make my mark as a manager." So I don't see why Brown would then gear up a good gig at Fleetwood, where he's doing pretty well. I don't think he would gear that up to go and be a number two. As much as he might have a relationship with Rodgers, there's obviously the clear Celtic connection that's there. I think the guys just want to be his own man. Do you know what I mean? Right. So
I would prefer, see, like former players, as you said, Paddy, I would rather just them being their own man. I really couldn't give a fuck, to be honest, if Scott Brown ever came back as Celtic manager. I'm more concerned about the best candidate for the job. People who would once say Henrik Larsson, bring him back as the assistant manager, or even bring him back as the manager, couldn't give a fuck. You need to be good. Don't be an imposter. Don't come back out of sentimentality. Someone earlier on said Liam Brady had a Celtic connection. Out of curiosity, does anybody remember who Liam Brady's assistant manager was? Because under Tommy Burns, he had Billy Stark. And under Wim Jansen, he had Myrtle McLeod. Who did Liam Brady have?
Was it no Frank Connor?
Was it? Well, he became a caretaker, didn't he?
He's the only person with a 100% win record as a Celtic manager.
You love that stat. I've heard you say that a few times. That is your party piece on here. Right. Okay, so can I ask you about John Kennedy? Just briefly about John Kennedy.
Joe Jordan. There's Andy. Joe Jordan. So I'm going to go with Andy. He's a lot. I was going to say older, but he's a lot wiser than me. So
Joe Jordan. He's had a lot of experience in the game. He was the assistant for Harry Redknapp. Mind they had that set to with Gennaro Gattuso.
Mm-hmm.
Wee wank. John Kennedy. Has John Kennedy earned his departure? or does anyone feel betrayed by him? I find it quite contradictory. I'm kind of probably aiming this towards McGinty, who's not here, but I'm still going to say it. So John Kennedy, of course, some people lambasted him for his track record as the caretaker manager after Lennon gets sacked. You're entitled to that opinion. And a lot of people said that he should be gone. He should have left. That he was just kind of tainted by that failure to clinch the 10 in a row. But other people have said that Kennedy's been fantastic and that
And there he is, right on time.
Kennedy wants to go. There's the door. You can just imagine Pete McGinty lurking somewhere in a wee cupboard on his shift, on his phone,
There he
just
is.
like
away swanning in for a jobby to make sure he gets his digging about Kennedy.
He's not a manager, a great coach. That's high praise from you, Colin Kennedy, a great coach. I've never heard you go to those heights before. So I guess, Jane.
And sorry, Gav, there's the flip side of it as well for Minty. He says Kennedy deserves his move. He's done a lot of good work for us. His time as interim manager at the end of a shite season is a relevance. And I kind of agree with that, but sorry.
Yeah. I think he's earned his move. I want him to do really well, whatever he chooses to do. He would have been a candidate for a manager, probably a long shot. Not everybody's favourite one, but he knows the club inside out. And if he wants to go, then I think he has to go with it. All our blessings, James.
Aye, that's it, mate. It seems to be when things kind of maybe start going downhill or they're not going great. Obviously, that kind of COVID season, everybody kind of jumped on his head pretty much. He get lambasted, and then when things are going well, he kind of flies under the radar. I think every manager he's worked under, speaks really highly of him. There's rumours that Rodgers tried to take him to Leicester as well the last time, and obviously stayed here, and then obviously Ange's wanting him at Spurs, and a lot of the players speak really highly of him. So I dare say it would be quite a big loss, but then at the same time, if he wants to go, there's no point holding on to him if he's wanting out the door. So it's up to him really, isn't it?
Aye. It's just kind of worrying though the lack of coaching staff now at the club, especially if Gavin Strachan goes and that analyst that Ange wants as well. I forget the guy's name. But that's 3 people at the door along with Ange potentially.
Do you not think it's quite amazing though that probably up to recently, maybe like the last year or something, nobody could have gave a fuck if Kennedy left or Gavin Strachan and whoever, and now you're almost like, well, what do you mean you're leaving? Do you know what I mean?
I think sometimes, we're all guilty of it, me especially, that you make opinions based out of emotion, and that's what football's all about. So, what else were we going to talk about? Oh, Stevie Hamill. Did you hear about him? He's been appointed as the head coach of Lennoxtown. I don't know if that's the correct title. I heard from Motherwell fans that they rated him highly as a coach. So have you guys heard anything about it? Do you know anything about Stevie Hamill?
It's just a wee bit. So obviously the role that he's got is a newly created role, and it's the academy head coach. Now, I'm not too sure what the ins and outs of that will be, but he will be working under Chris McCart, who's still there as the kind of head of youth development type thing. But listen, Motherwell's a very, very good club in terms of coaching youth, giving youth a chance. Stevie Hamill's got a very, very good reputation there. I know he had a spell as manager. No, that didn't really go well. We obviously get the sack, but I don't think that we can kind of use that as a stick to hit him with. I think the work that he does with the youth and what he has done with Motherwell is clearly a positive, and I think it's something that we have been looking towards in the background. I think I dare say that people might be a wee bit wary of him because the reports was that he was recommended by Ange, and that was kind of his last thing as manager to have done. But again, I don't think we can use that as a negative towards him. So hopefully he comes in and hopefully he does do a lot of positives with the youth, and we did really need to to be looking towards that, because something that Brendan Rodgers says in his last term was that he shouldn't have to look for a £10 million player. He shouldn't have to go and buy a £10 million player. All that he should do is go and look at his academy, and there should be a £10 million player. So that needs to be something that is looked at.
I've heard that soundbite. It's not how football always works, that you're going to find a ready-made replacement in the youth ranks. I've made the point before, about La Masia, the class of 92. They talk about the class of 92 because it fucking happened so long ago and it's not been repeated. If it happened all the time, then they wouldn't focus on that particular generation. Same with the La Masia, maybe like Xavi, Messi, Iniesta, and all them. It doesn't happen all the time. And seeing that, like the youth production from Celtic, but when was the last time we had a centre forward worth his salt that came for the youth?
Mark Burcham.
Yeah, and even at that, we're clutching at straws, aren't we?
Tony Watt, maybe.
Well, he came for.
Obviously, we bought him for Airdrie, yeah.
Aye. It is what it is. Do you think Cal McGregor's role will change whatsoever? Don't mean the captaincy, I mean his playing style. So if you remember Scott Brown, whenever Rodgers came, how Rodgers kind of refined his role. James, considering the fact that Cal McGregor's already that kind of deep lying playmaker, do you think there's anything more to tweak with his playing style, with what he can offer us?
See, personally, I would have said that if Ange was still here as well. I think I said it whilst Ange was still here. Don't get me wrong, Cal McGregor does that role that he's doing now, or has done previously, absolutely brilliantly. I'm not saying anything different. But I think he plays his best fit by going forward. So see if we can sign a kind of a big holding midfielder, as we spoke about, just to free him up a wee bit more, to give him, because last season when we seen it, it was like McGregor, O'Reilly and Hatate, and it was more O'Reilly and Hatate was the players going forward as such, and McGregor was more the holder. I'd like to see McGregor maybe playing a wee bit further forward, having more emphasis on the attacking part of his game as opposed to the kind of holding midfield role. As I say, he does it well. It's no slight on him at all. He does it brilliantly. But for me, I've always felt that Callum McGregor plays his best fit by going forward.
It's an interesting point of view. I wouldn't disagree with that. Obviously, a lot of people, you get £1 for every time somebody says, I want a Wanyama type of player in the midfield. Maybe one day we might actually get our wish, and that would maybe want you to play Cal McGregor more advanced. Do you think you still get the legs for it, Paddy? Controversial.
I think he's got lovely legs, Gav. No, I get what James is saying there. Cal Mac's obviously got great attributes going forward, but I think he's not that he's old or anything. I think he's 29, nearly 30. But he's the type of player that can be deployed at the back, dictate tempo, dictate play. The only thing that's a problem in this team, in my opinion, is that Cal Mac he's had to be doing basically three roles. He's been the guy that's lying deepest. He is the guy that's trying to win the ball. He's the guy that's trying to, break forward, this and that. I think we need to have people in there that's going to allow him to just sit back and dictate the tempo, because that's where he is at his best. If you ask me, his range of passing is fantastic. His reading of the game is exceptional. His leadership's obviously shown right through since Brown's left. I would rather a more kind of useful, energetic player takes that mantle of being the guy that goes forward, maybe Hatate. But you definitely need somebody in there to break up the play, and that's assuming that you're going to be going with three midfielders, which is probably going to be the case. Yeah.
But Rodgers does have that. Forgive me for bringing up his name in a Celtic podcast, but Steven Gerrard at Liverpool, Rodgers started playing him more kind of regressive, if that's the right word to say, more defensive anyway. The kind of quarterback role, again, another word you should apologise for using on a football podcast. So he did it with Steven Gerrard. He done it with Scott Brown. I think the likelihood is the older Callum McGregor gets, like he's already, 30, I think, 29, 30. I can't see him going any further forward. I can see him being more the kind of the lion type midfielder, which is interesting because Celtic apparently have made a bid for a 20-year-old who occupies that very same position. A guy called, and I love this guy's name, Odin Thiago Holmes. Norwegian 20-year-old. He looks about like, I've only seen him from the YouTube clips. He looks a wee bit taller than McGregor, possibly 6 foot, 6'1". The guy is athletic without being physical. But again, he's quite a slight of frame. But as a 20-year-old, you would expect that. Think about what Kieran Tierney was like as a 20-year-old before he bulked up. So deep lying playmaker, plays for it's a Norwegian team with a V. Valerenga, thank you, mate. Cheers. I was going to say Valhalla.
Ronnie Dyler's old team.
That's it.
Gary Melrose, we only went for Odin because Thor said no.
Mate, go for it. And the other movements that I saw that he could do was whenever he would take the ball under pressure, he'd be able to kind of spin around, kind of like what Hatate does. He's also got a really good burst of pace, not just over 10 yards, but he can kind of sustain that. You remember those marauding runs that Christopher Ayer would make from defence whenever he kind of saw it on opening? Very much like what this boy does. However, the only flaw I would say is that sometimes he might go past one player, two player, three player. At that point, he should be passing the ball off. He should have a plan in place. But from the videos that I saw, he was really good at doing that, but he was just hogging on to the ball for too long. So I think maybe a bit of coaching for his decision-making, that's something that Brendan Rodgers, if we do sign him, that's something that he would be able to teach him. And it does kind of raise the prospect about bidding for players whenever you don't have a manager. I'm all for it. I don't think you should ever pause the recruitment process. One player I would say is Moussa Dembele. Dembele might have get signed, possibly, just whenever Rodgers was appointed the manager, but we were scouting him for much longer than that. So I think there should always be working in the background to identify these players and to make moves, to buy them. I don't think you should just wait for a manager to come in before you push the button, because, well, you're going to lose progress. You're going to lose targets. A lot of months of homework spent in these players, and then all of a sudden you just stop it because you don't have a manager. And I also don't think in modern day football that you need to sell a club, that you need to sell a move to a player just by saying this is going to be your new gaffer. Celtic is big enough for some of these players. You don't need to say who the new manager is. Managers come and go. So that's my point. James, do you have any firm opinions about the recruitment process? Whenever we're still trying to kind of install a new manager?
No, I agree with everything you've said, mate. Obviously, we're in the summer now. This is the off season, so there's absolutely no excuse for us taking a stone still while we appoint a manager. You could argue we done that the last time. Obviously chasing Eddie Howe for so long, and then kind of obviously ended up getting knocked back off him essentially. So no excuse to stand still. We know the board will know what needs to be done in terms of what positions we're looking at and things like that. I don't think that will change really if Rodgers comes in. So no, we never stop.
And
can we still say that?
No.
Would you want Mr. Dembele back as a player if Rodgers became boss?
I don't think that will never happen. I don't think we could afford these wages anyway, but I don't think it can be as if Rodgers was here.
Are you surprised at how his career's turned out?
Yeah, a wee bit. I thought he'd have been on a bigger trajectory, to say the least. But listen, these things happen with players, but he still carved out a decent career. You know, I think he went to Atletico Madrid as well, didn't he? When they won the league, I think. But listen, Dembele would be a great player here, but he's not coming back. I don't really like looking backwards in terms of signing players for a second time. That's kind of one of my sticking points about Rodgers. Well, many sticking points, but that's one of them. I don't think I can remember a Celtic player coming back for a second spell and being better, other than maybe Fraser Forster, who had full spells at Celtic, funny enough, you know what I mean? And every time they came back, it was better. I think he's
Sean
probably...
Maloney?
No, it was terrible. Terrible second spell.
Yeah.
Number 13 as well. Unlucky. There's a comment by Red. What you on about? The manager has to sign off on all players, not some scouting regime. It's fine players like Odin that cost peanuts, but the first team are signed by Brendan. Now, I get that, right? But so what happens like the new then, Red, right? And I'll just ask Red and that the questions to everybody. So Ange's left, right? There's obviously been things in place by Ange and the scouting team, whatnot. So did the scouting team just go into a cupboard because we've not got a manager there? Like, what did they do? Did they just go on holiday until somebody comes in and then hopefully the manager likes their suggestions? No, they don't. They've got to continually work. And if Mark Lawwell and Jay Lefebvre or whoever is in the scouting department that's actually, you know, kind of the head honchos, if they think that a player's good enough for any manager walking into the team, I think that they're quite well within their rights to be signing players, as long as they're good enough.
Right. Was that what happened with Dembele the last time, like we're saying, and then it happened with was it Craig Gordon under Ronnie Dyler? Ronnie Dyler came in, it was pretty much a done deal, and then pretty much just get announced alongside him.
I don't think that you can ever stop or you can slow down in that regard. I think the scouting team right now, you know, that this is when they earn their big bucks, you know. This is when they justify their position. As Paddy said, that if you wait until... What if Rodgers knocks us back, okay? Now, I know we've based this entire podcast on the possibility of the certainty of him becoming manager. But say tomorrow the tops collapse, you know, Peter Lawwell just can't hold back and say, you wee fucking dick. And then the talks collapse, you know, and we have to go for a new manager. Say it's another fortnight down the line. That's a valuable time that we've lost. What I think we should do...
Sorry, Gav, on you go.
No, on you go, mate. I was just going to...
No, I'm just going to read out Red's retort to the question. First team purchases all need to be frozen until new manager assesses team and or signs off. Can't be buying multi-million pound deals just for the new manager not to fancy them, then want more millions. I get that point, right? But like, how many managers, right? And we probably don't know the half of it goes on at clubs. How many managers come into a club and are at a club, and every single transfer window, every single one of their players are identified by the manager? Probably, I don't know, maybe 20%, maybe. You look at Ange, the signings that he made, you could definitely say Kyogo was his signing, definitely say Maeda, Hatate was his signings. Joe Hart, wasn't he? Postecoglou's signing, although he probably has signed off on it and had the chat with him, which we've heard with Joe Hart. If you're going to have a scouting team, they need to be doing their work as well. They need to be scouting players. And if we've not got a manager in place, then what do we do? Do we just overlook players that have been scouted? Because this Odin guy hasn't just popped up on the radar in the last couple of days. This is a guy that the scouting team have identified and said that he is good enough to come to the team, good enough to be a Celtic player. So do we then just rip it up and just say, nah, sorry, mate, we've not got a manager, can't sign you? I don't think we can, but I do agree with you. I do see where you're coming from, because we could sign that guy and the manager could walk in and say, do you know what, don't want to play him because he's not my signing. But that happens anyway. A manager walks in to a club and sees that players are already there, existing players, and says, nah, I don't fancy him. I'll maybe give him a chance, this and that. So
maybe it's a valid point that Red does bring up. Maybe if you set certain parameters for signing players when we don't yet have a full-time manager. So this Odin guy, apparently it's 2.5 million, you know, so we're not breaking the bank. However, if we were talking about the signing of like Kyogo was about 4.5 million, like CCV 6 million, Jota 6 million, maybe those kind of, if you want to call it blue chip signings, the higher kind of standards of players that we're going for. Maybe if we don't pull the trigger on those types of players, we wait until a manager comes in. But certainly targets that we've been working on in the background for half a year, 12 months, calculated decisions that we're making, these players that we buy them for a low price, young age, sell them on for a higher price. I think that's not something that people would be against. But again, the higher quality of players like your Kyogos, your Jotas, maybe then wait for a new manager to come in, because you don't want to be wasting $6+ million on a player if the manager doesn't like him. So that's probably a fair compromise, or maybe something
I think Gav maybe Red's kind of harking back to the. Well, you can answer me if I'm wrong here, but I'm just assuming he's thinking back to the Manny and Shved signing. Rodgers did come out and say that he didn't know anything about this guy until he signed. So clearly, clearly people were signing players that under the managers. It happens everywhere. We all know the Peter Lawwell influence and whatnot, whoever it is that's working behind the scenes. So there is positives, there is negatives, but we can only hope that, if Rodgers is the guy that comes in, we wipe the slate clean. He's coming in. He's going to get backed. He's been promised cash. We're getting into the Champions League, so even for a player, that's a selling point for the club. As I said before, I've said it again. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. When we get automatic qualification for the Champions League, it then totally changes our transfer targets. It elevates them, as far as I'm concerned, because we'll probably get our scouts work on tiers. So it's like A players, B players, and C players. You try and get your A's, and if you don't get them, then you go to the list on the B squad. You don't get them, goes to the C, We can offer Champions League football straight away. We're not asking players to come in and say, "Oh, listen, come and sign for Celtic. You've got a chance of winning some trophies. You've got a chance of, putting yourself in the short window for the championship. England. And by the way, we've got 4 qualifiers to play. We could maybe get into the Champions League." No, this time it's, listen, Champions League's on offer. You can win trophies at Celtic, and if wants be, you can get yourself interest in England. So we're getting elevated in terms of the players that we can sign. And if there's money there to spend, then it's certainly an interesting project for any manager. And if it is Rodgers, again, I'll wipe the slate clean. I'll probably hum and haw on here. But if he's the manager, then we back him. Simple as. Fans back him, the board back him, everybody backs him.
Seeing fairness, so see off the back of his record, does it maybe know for the best that he's not involved in scouting anything?
Oh,
that maybe a wee bit harsh?
Fair comment. James, see, in terms of personnel, that Brendan Rodgers could come in and improve, or some personnel that perhaps he might take a look at and say, "You're not for me." What I ask you your thoughts on the centre-back pairing of Cameron Carter-Vickers and Starfelt. So they've been playing together now for 2 years. What do you think Brendan Rodgers will... What do you think his thoughts will be? Now, no doubt, he will have watched the videotapes. He will already have seen Celtic playing anyway, even whenever he was still manager at Leicester. Do you think he'll fancy them together, or do you think he might want to freshen it up?
I think he will fancy them together. Look, you know what I think about Starfelt. As I say, I think he's a good player, but I'd be looking to get him on the bench to bring somebody in. If you look back to his, what would his kind of centre half pairing have been? Would it have been between Boyata, Simunovic, and Sviatchenko? Am I missing them? Between the 3, so it's big. Well, I was going to say big, but Sviatchenko was about 3'4". Nah, I don't think so, to be honest. As much as I personally would maybe like to see another centre half coming in, it wouldn't be at the top of my list, and I don't see any reason why we would need to really kind of imminently change that up.
And Taylor and Johnson, it'd be very difficult to imagine that he would dislike the influence that Taylor has on the team, and again, what Alistair Johnson can do defensively for us. So, do you think the defensive back four are, cast iron? They're good. They're not in jeopardy.
I wouldn't be surprised to see signing a left back, and that's no a slight on Greg Taylor. That's more looking towards Bernaby. I don't think Bernaby's going to make it. I've not really seen enough for him to suggest that. I know he's come out and said he had a lot of stuff going on kind of personally. the season just gone, and he says he's really going to kick on this year. Hopefully it is. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised to see another left back coming in. And as we've discussed on here, as I said earlier today, we were talking about how it felt as if we were at the same stage we were at when Rodgers left, and now Rodgers coming back into that same stage. So this window, I think we need to be ruthless and just go out and sign players for the first team. We've all spoke about Joe Hart, how much we like him. As a personality in the dressing room is obviously good, but this is where we need to be ruthless. If we really want to make an impact in Europe and try and smash through that glass ceiling, then we're going to need to be ruthless. And players that we like, we're going to need to look at and think, could we get better for the budget that we're shopping within? And if we can, then pull the trigger and go for it. And just basically gives the best possible chance in Europe. That's, for me, I think where the board will be thinking, and I think everything points towards that now.
By the way, Gav, I know you're talking about centre backs. There was a name that I could have swore that we missed there. It was Colo Touré. He broke big colon, didn't he?
Aye.
Yeah. But again, that was a good move, that, because he brought in a guy who had plenty of experience. He brought in a physical boy. I know he had, Effie Ambrose levels mistakes in him, but he was a decent signing. He brought, as I say, he brought winning mentality. He brought experience. So we could be doing something like that as well, because I think we are still short in quality at centre back. We've only got Stephen Welsh and Kobayashi there. Maybe throw Lawal into the mix. So I think he will need to bring in another centre back. Again, if he signs. But definitely, regardless of who comes in, we still need a left back. Totally agree. Because we can do better. Listen, I like Greg Taylor. I really like him. I like his attitude. I like his desire. But he's upgradable. And Bernabei has shown nothing for me as a defender. And Benkovic, yes, Benkovic. You brought in Benkovic as well. Correct.
Yeah. One player who I think will be...
Sorry, Gav, I'm just going to answer Pat Laugh there. Sayuncu in defence, he's on a free. I think he's signed for Atletico Madrid. So,
yeah. Atletico. He had that falling out with Rodgers, I believe.
I think so,
Yeah. Now, one player who I think will be a casualty of the Brendan Rodgers era will be Maida. Now, it's got nothing to do with the fact that Maida had recently came out in an interview and said that he thinks that he can perform at a higher level. I don't think he meant for Celtic. Yes, he did. Perhaps his comments could have been taken out of context. You know how it is with the media. But nothing to do with that. I just think that he is a square peg in a round hole. For Japan and for his former club in Japan, he played as a centre forward, did it in the World Cup, scored a goal. He's not a winger. Now, I know that he fitted into Postecoglou's system, but Postecoglou's system is for Ange and Ange alone. Every manager is going to be different, I can't see it. Now, Jota's best position is on the left, cutting in on his right. It's not the opposite way around. Why should we compromise our best flair player for Maida? Because Maida can't do it on the other side. I think Maida will be a casualty. Now, I could be wrong. He could be a backup winger. He could be on the bench for the majority of next season. But I think Jota will be on the left. I can't see Brendan Rodgers playing him on the right. What has Maida done to deserve playing on the left, ahead of Jota? I guess it's, even Jota on the other side can still perform at a high level, whereas Maida is... see, before the games at Parkhead, I would watch Harry Kewell and I'd watch Maida do their coaching drills. And Maida would play it into Kewell. Kewell would lay it off, and then he would run in and he'd do like a kind of left-footed cross. And it was like a kind of muscle memory. He kept doing it and doing it and doing it, because that's the type of goals that Kyogo would convert. But Maida's crossing, if we're being honest, it's pretty shite. The amount of times that he's just ballooned it, hit it out for a shy or way over the bar, like, fucking hell. I would play Maida as a false nine. Look, I don't know if Maida's got the intelligence for that. Maida runs a bit like a...
Corvo, I genuinely don't know how much that you see a Celtic. I'm not going to assume. But Maida has got the football intelligence of a fucking sock. He's a great wee player. He's got great pace off the ball. He's an honest young laddie, I think, but he's not an intelligent footballer. And I know that's probably a slight. People go, oh, shut up, you prick. But if you look at players like Jota, he's no got it like that. He's almost like a utility player. He's there for his speed and nothing else.
Think of how intelligent Firmino was, you know. Firmino on his day, brilliant player. The wee kind of flicks that he would play off to Salah or whatever. My strength was closing down. Other than that, you know, like on the wing. Do you remember that goal that he scored against Hibs away? That belter. That sticks out because it's like once in a blue moon. He'll never ever repeat that. Never repeat that. I'm not trying to kind of fucking drive him to the airport, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to hasten his departure. I'm just saying I don't think Brendan Rodgers is going to fancy him. Brendan Rodgers, who did he have? He got Sinclair as his left winger. Jota, presumably, if Jota stays, Jota will be the left winger. And hopefully Brendan Rodgers will get... We've been crying out for a replacement for Jimmy Forrest for a long, long time. Abada might improve under Rodgers, but Abada on past form this season, he's not good enough to be our main right winger. So...
I think the most interesting question, Gav, is as you said that previously, like the system here now is Ange's system, and it worked for Ange, right? Ange brought in the inverted fullback kind of philosophy and spent a lot of time putting trust in guys like Taylor, Ralston, Juranovic. I don't think Rodgers would even entertain that. You know, playing that inverted fullback. Any manager that's coming in is going to want to play under their system. And I think it's a lot to ask that somebody just slots in to Ange's system. It would be almost like somebody slotting into a club and governing saying that they're still the same, you know what I mean? Which we know is a farce.
I think Maida for me is another one that falls into that category. I think he's definitely still got his uses, but I just wouldn't have him starting. I'd maybe move him onto the bench and, as you say, bring a right winger in. I wouldn't be selling him, especially to Spurs. If it's Spurs, let's start the bidding at 30 million ex-manager tax and all that. But no, I wouldn't be looking to get him out the door right away. I agree with what you're saying, though. I wouldn't have him in my starting 11, ideally. He's shown it in spells, and he definitely has his uses. We do need a new right winger, so he'd be another casualty, as I say, just been kind of ruthless.
Have you guys heard the rumours about Aaron Moy retiring? It could be total bullshit.
I heard that yesterday, mate. That's total bullshit. Nonsense.
That was me that started that rumour.
By the way,
I read it, I wouldn't have been surprised. He's just a bit of an enigma.
I think he'd be a good player under Rodgers. By the way, listen, there's 200 odd watching the news. So as you can see at the bottom, sorry, Gav, I'm going to just have a wee quick spiel here. Very, very quick. There's a wee ticket bar running along the bottom there. As you can see, it says Patreon. So we are also on another platform. It's on there at the bottom. It's a subscription service. It's not a lot. It's less than the cost of a pint a month. It's extra content, stuff that you won't see on YouTube, stuff that's not allowed on YouTube. So if you are interested, jump on the website. Gives a wee subscription. A wee bit of support always goes a long, long way for podcasts like this and whatnot. Because it does cost a lot, believe it or not. So if you're interested, jump on and move on.
The cost of a pint, like the West End cost of a pint or the Gallagher cost of a pint?
Didn't see a pint of it though.
Gallagher. It's no champagne prices, put it that way. But you get champagne for the price of push.
Ball bag of the week.
I'm going to give both mine to Brendan Rodgers this time because I feel he's fully deserving it.
Baller of the week and ball bag of the week, Brendan Rodgers for James. Who else has really been in the media recently that we could talk about? know that Nicola Sturgeon got arrested, but yeah.
Hey, innocent until proven guilty.
Right, okay.
Andy
Yeah.
Walker. Andy Walker. I'm going to bring him up again.
Andy
Ball bag of the
Walker.
week.
Yeah.
Ball bag of the week.
He
Ball
won.
bag of the month. Ball bag of the century.
And as we know, Andy Walker, much to Pat Paddy, was like a one-man petition against Andy Walker. Andy Walker has announced that he will no longer be commentating on the Scottish games for Sky Television next season.
Aye, prick.
We've got Chris Sutton coming in, and he'll kind of brighten things up. It'll be him and the dullest man in football, McFadden, and also you've got Chris Boyd too. Do you think it makes that a little bit more interesting?
I don't think Chris Boyd's got the brains to hold a conversation with Chris Sutton.
Do you know something? We do need a bit of diversity on that channel. I do not promote Sky by any fucking stretch of imagination. I think it's the devil's platform. But unfortunately, people have got to subscribe to it and whatnot, watch football. But no, listen, Andy Walker, Gary, I've had so many rants about this guy. And you can see me on Patreon, by the way. It's in the bottom. No, I'm delighted that I won't have to listen to his sycophantic pish anymore. The guy is just a horrible wee human being. Punditry-wise, I don't know him personally, but the way he comes across in the telly is just despicable. Being an ex-Celtic man, I've never seen somebody who sucks up the arse of the pro-Rangers media in all my days. So, fuck him. Good riddance. Bye-bye, prick. Looking forward to seeing Big Chris Sutton taking on the ultimate bellend that is Chris Boyd.
And baller of the week, can you improve upon James's Brendan Rodgers?
Me?
Yeah, if you can.
Probably, I'm going to go for Carol Starfield.
I thought you were going to say Sky for sacking Walker.
No, fuck Sky at all. Carol Starfield, surely he's got to be the baller of the week because he looks as if he's doing a bit of balling now with his newfound love. So, good luck to him.
She's a jammy bastard, isn't she?
You wonder, like, if it comes as a package deal, if like a club came in to buy Carol Starfield, if that meant that Carol Starfield had to ensure that they had the equivalent of a women's team as well, so that Jacinta could sign for them as well. And vice versa, of course. They could come in for Jacinta. That means that Starfield has to go. You wonder if that would be the case. Baller of the week is Paddy for me. Why not? Paddy, you're an asset to the podcast. You know who's been having a fucking good time of late? Jack Grealish, man. I don't think the guy has sobered up yet. Have you seen all the pictures of him boozing?
Aye, fair play him. Fair play. Listen, a lot's been made of Man City winning the Champions League. And I know we're kind of graphing a wee tangent here about non-Celtic stuff, but I don't get the hate. I really don't, because football is a financial game now. It really is. And you win the Champions League, fair play. You know, it's a hard slog. And fair play to Inter. They had a good go at it. I like their tactics. I like the way Inzaghi set them up. But listen, you've won a treble. Good, fair play to you. Go and enjoy it, and then fuck off and give peace.
I need to pick a hole in that argument.
And by the way, sorry, Gav, my sincere apologies for jumping in, but yes, Adrian, fuck him and fuck Rice, pair of fucking turncoat bastards.
It does seem weird that a guy who was investigated for singing rebel songs or like rebel quotes on his Twitter feed and then playing for England a few years later, it does sound contrary. Paddy, financial doping. How can you back Man City while at the same time no doubt criticise Rangers?
I'm not backing anybody. I could not care less. I really couldn't. It's no directly affected us. If anything, who links to the City group, we should all be praising Man City and saying what a great club, and we all appreciate you. Well done, win the Champions League, and geese all your best young players, and leave Maresca somewhere. We don't want him just geese like fucking.
I do genuinely wonder. See, with Mark Lowell, I do wonder if there's any other gems that we can exploit under the Man City links. If there's anybody there, who do you think's been the best one? So we've got Boyata, Paddy Roberts. Was Nietzscham, or am I talking shite with Nietzscham?
He came
Yeah,
from
he's
Man
one.
City. Yeah.
We thought was one of them.
John Guidetti.
Who was the best at them all? And there's probably a few that were kind of
Boyata.
thinking.
In terms of player or just for Celtic, because in terms of player, it's probably got to be Denier, doesn't it? Oh, well.
I don't know.
Denial, is he playing his trade now in the Middle East, Denial?
Aye, left Lyon to go there. Aye. This one, I say it splits opinion. It doesn't really. I think most people don't like him because of how it ended. But I really like John Guidetti. I thought John Guidetti was a cracking player. I know it went kind of sure at the end, but I like Guidetti.
Have you seen that photo of him as a boy when he was playing in Africa? And it's he's like him and all his teammates, and like he's Frimpong. Aye, Frimpong.
Frimpong, well done, Gorvo, well done. By the way, listen, if Frimpong goes for, some of the figures that's been quoted, we will be quids in because we've got a big sell-on clause.
Aye, I hope Frimpong does move on to the next level. He was, Brendan Rodgers would say, a great human being, and obviously a talented boy as well. So I want to see where he can play his trade at. And obviously you don't really get to see much of the games in the Bundesliga. Yeah, by the way, Borussia Dortmund on the last day they fucked it. Like, how many years has it been? Marco Reus never won a title. Last day of the season they just had to win. At home, I think. It was at home in front of the yellow wall, and he fucked it. And Bayern Munich ended up winning it on goal difference. How heartbreaking is that? But do you think they deserve it? Because, you shat it. Shat the bed in the last day.
I caught the second half of that, and any time, I can't mind who they were playing, but any time the team crossed the halfway line, they just looked as if they were going to score. It was like 4-2 every time. It's just this German Hibs, isn't it?
That's right. It's right up there with Slippy G, isn't it?
Right.
Did you see he's away to Saudi to be a manager?
It's like the opposite trajectory of Kishinya, isn't it?
It is, aye.
Was part of the reason that he left Rangers, I know obviously it was money, but did they not come out in the papers and say part of the reason he left Rangers was to be closer to home and his family and all that? So maybe fucking, instead of Michael Beale being his brains, maybe Michael Beale's fucking took his brains, man. If that's him fucked off to Saudi.
Well, again, mate, if Michael Beale is the brains behind Gerrard, I don't think that's really a compliment, is it?
Oh no, 100%, mate, honestly. Said that before. If that's your claim to fame, then God help you.
Now, I know that we do an On This Day feature. I don't really have a great one for you. However, on the 13th of June, 1986, before I was born, Roy Aitken and Paul McStay are in the Scotland team, which drew nothing each with Uruguay in the World Cup. That was Mexico, 1986. That must have been a scorcher for the Scottish players, man. Roy Aitken, one player that I never really got to see in the flesh. Midfielder, was he, rather than a centre-half. But I think when we talk about we want a Wanyama type player, I think Roy Aitken would have been an interesting one to see what he'd be like. Certainly an intimidating figure in the middle of the park.
Yeah, I would love fucking even Peter Grant in this fucking team. Just somebody that's just going to run through and fucking smash people. Honestly, you need it. You do need it. You look at how good Brown was in Rodgers' team, and that was a player there that had the kind of mindset where you can wind up the opponent. But it wasn't like a thug. It wasn't just a bampot. He could play football. He was there at the right time. He had that winning mentality, that desire to fucking bring the team on. He was the captain. He was the leader. And you look at all the players that we've got, and they're all nice football players. They're all fancy guys. They're all this and that, but we don't have any really mean, angry, big fucking horrible bastards in the team. Well, we do. We've obviously got Vickers, and you can see how good the physicality works within that fancy flowing football team. You've got Alistair Johnson, your lookalike. So to get one in that midfield would top it off. I know O's got kind of that presence about him, but jury's still on him for me. And that's that, and not in a bad way. Just I don't know how he's going to transition into a new manager, because it's all the kind of what ifs now. Like all these players that's come in under Postecoglou, how are they going to transition into a new manager's philosophy, new manager's style, tactics? We just don't know.
Which particular player was that you expressed a lack of confidence in?
Oh.
Aye.
No, as I say, not in a bad way, Gav. I just don't know how he'll transition into a new manager's kind of setup.
Difficult for him. He was playing under Postecoglou. Although O did get minutes, he wasn't a starter. He did get minutes. Ange did trust him because Ange bought him because he saw something in him. But again, a young player coming over for the Southeast Asia, if Brendan Rodgers doesn't fancy him, then where does he go for there? Does he go back home, or does he? I don't want to think about that. I hope that he does well. The guy's got something about him, but still very, very raw. James, that is a good one. What do you think his future will be like under Brendan Rodgers?
Who we talking about? Sorry, O.
Aye.
I think he's got a chance. Obviously, we've seen the last time it was kind of Griffiths and Dembele being that wee bit more kind of physical. Obviously, Ange didn't seem to favour that through Giakoumakis, and then obviously O when he came in. So I think there'll definitely be a place for him. And I've liked what I've seen him so far. I think his goals to minute ratio must be right up there with the best. Well, it must probably be the best. Because is it 7 goals he's got? He's only had 3 or 4 starts or something like that. I know, obviously, coming off the bench and stuff. But I've liked what I've seen so far. And as we said, Rodgers improves players. So I think he'll be another one along with Abada that'll go that way.
Well, I think there's one name that we've kind of not really mentioned, and it's kind of in the lines that along the lines of that, James, about him, Rodgers, getting the better out of players. What about O'Reilly? Because we've seen him coming in the first season, and he was cracking. He showed so much potential, and then I think for me the second season, take all the stats out the window. I think if you were looking at him week in week out, you could see that it just wasn't as imposing in games as like a collective through the 90 minutes. But I think maybe he might be a player that Rodgers would really, really fancy.
I see. Whenever O started getting games again, whenever Hatate and Moy were out injured, I wouldn't even say that he played his way back into form. He just started getting games. I don't mean to speak badly of him. I saw an interview. It was with him and Greg Taylor, and he sounds like he takes himself very, very, very seriously, very, very, very seriously, and a professional. Like he eats the right things. He doesn't do like a Jack Grealish, for example. But I think that lack of pace that he has, the lack of pace in the centre midfield, whenever you've already got teammates in that position who are maybe not blessed with pace, like if you've got a midfield with Moy, O'Reilly, McGregor, the full-backs, the wingers, they would try to kind of compensate for that lack of mobility in the midfield. I don't like too many players in the midfield who don't have mobility. O'Reilly is certainly up there. Now, Rodgering, he wasn't fast, but he had the twinkle toes, you know what I mean? He could do that wee shimmy and get by players. He had really good dribbling ability for a guy of his height. O'Reilly doesn't quite have that. O'Reilly's got that kind of eye for a pass. But sometimes, even though the stats were brilliant at the end of the season, I think he had 12 assists by the end of it. But on the whole of it, kind of like Abada's got very, very flattering stats. But when you've got a hard game, and you've got players like Abada and O'Reilly, would you really fancy them going into the trenches with you? I'm not so sure. But it'll be interesting to see what Rodgers does.
It's not that take, he's a big lad, isn't he? He's a big lump of a boy. It's not as if he's a wee fucking 5'2" wallflower.
There's not been rumours in the past as well that Leicester were linked with Rodgers, fucking O'Reilly. Aye, when Rodgers was there. Was that? Have I just made that up in my head? I thought it was rumours. No, because I'm wondering, I mean, would you maybe kind of class him as a similar-ish type player to like James Maddison?
O'Reilly.
Aye.
I think the lower centre of gravity that Maddison has got allows him to kind of get by players. Again, Maddison doesn't have bags of pace, but I think that low centre of gravity allows him to kind of make more space for himself. Whereas O'Reilly, I don't think he's got that ability to kind of make space for himself. He always has to, when he gets the ball, pass it off quick. Maybe I'm being harsh on the guy. You could be right. But I think the expected tactics for the Rotten Mob next season is the physicality. They're just looking to buy guys who are 6 foot plus, and they've been doing it since for ages, as long as I've been alive. Physicality. Obviously, sprinkling.
What about transitioning Laval to a centre defensive mid?
What about transitioning Laval to a lady?
Transitioning to a football player?
yeah, the latter, to a footballer. No, the jury have given a guilty verdict, guilty at not being a footballer for Laval. Not going to happen, man. No.
We'll see. Maybe Rodgers might work his magic.
Something really bad about that finger motion that you just did there, Paddy.
Yeah, it's not the worst finger motion I've ever done.
By the way, on this day, but yesterday, I know that I'm kind of clutching at straws here. So the 12th of June, 2010, Celtic's Ki Sung-young for South Korea played against Georgia Samaras' Greece. They went head-to-head in the World Cup at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. Who do you remember winning that game, South Korea or Greece?
I don't remember the game at all.
Yeah, I'm sure it was largely forgettable. South Korea won 2-0 against a very sorry Greek team.
A Greek tragedy.
Oh, yes. It does. It gives me the fear. Right, guys. We've been on for an hour and 25 minutes. Is there anything else? By the way, the viewers, thanks very, very much for tuning in. Paddy mentioned it already. We do have a Patreon page, and it's the cost of a cheap pint, a cheap watered down pint. But aye, guys, any further content we want to talk about tonight before we wrap up? Here, by the way, see tomorrow if this whole Brendan Rodgers thing gets kiboshed.
Well, I think Plunge mentioned it earlier on, and more times than none, we tend to announce things on a Friday. So I think if all goes well, probably that might be the day that we announce them. And there's a question for the best name ever, Craig White Legend. What's your favourite pot noodle?
Techno mushroom has to be.
My man. Is that because it's green?
Aye. James?
No, mate, you're right. I once picked up a chicken korma pot noodle. I think it was a limited edition one. It was purple. What a tangent this is, by the way. Absolutely grim. You ever heard it? No.
I've never tried the Bombay Bad Boy. Never tried it.
Oh, far too spicy.
See the price of pot noodles, they're ridiculous. They're over £1. I just don't see value for money for it.
There's a quote for a Celtic podcast.
Do you know what's even worse? I know this is probably a terrible way to end the show. We're talking about pot noodles, but have you ever seen the packets of Lost the Pot noodle?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No, it's basically just pot
Super
noodle
noodles.
without the pot.
So Patreon.
So if you want to know more about pot noodles, then come and join us on Patreon, where Earl James will be sampling the delights of the Far East in a pot.
And if you want to hear Paddy doing a shite, it's only a £5. So.
By the way, £5 well spent.
Yeah. Right, guys, we'll wrap it up for this evening. I know that for our outros, they're always so awkward as fuck, but we'll try and be more cut and dry. So again, we'll be back on next Tuesday for another Tuesday edition, and hopefully at that point we'll have a manager in place and maybe a couple of signings by that point. If we're no further forward, it'll be fucking It'll be painful. It will be painful. So, guys, I've enjoyed it. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Let's go.
Aye,
Pop
hopefully,
smoke.
hopefully next week, Big Andrew will be out the fucking banners as well and out the videos. So, he has stopped. Good night.
Catch you.